Nidum Ligi hath wilt genat amasat gun lom. Chiefs, matriarchs, honored guests, thank you for being here as a witness. We would also like to thank the Creator for this opportunity for us to share with you all today. Toiksamni, thank you.
Thank you, John, for opening us up in a good way. My name is Stephanie Papik, and I am a director with the Moosehead campaign for the BC Public Service. I'd like to say hello and welcome everyone to It Starts With Me, facilitated by Nicole Gagnon, Nicole Evanoff, Shannon Williams, myself, and John Kervel. We're honored to have you joining us today and are so grateful for you to be supporting the Moosehead campaign. My name is Stephanie Papik, and as I told you, I'm the director for the Moosehead campaign for the BC Public Service. I'm joining you today from the Lekwungen territory, and it's deep gratitude I have to Songhees and Esquimalt Nation, in particular, community members, elders, and youth who've been really generous in sharing knowledge and teachings with me over the years to learn how to walk in a good way while I'm a visitor here. As we're all participating today from different parts of Turtle Island, I encourage you all to take some time to familiarize yourself with the territories that you are residing on and include that knowledge and learning in your space today as we ground ourselves in ceremony. And if this is something that's new to you, one of my co-hosts can pop in the chat some links and a text number where you can find out the territories that you're on. Before we begin, I'd just like to go over a few housekeeping notes. During this session, everyone's mics will remain muted and the general chat function is off. If you have any questions, you can message me directly in the chat. Stephanie and I will bring your question forward to our co-hosts. We'll also do our best to answer as many of your questions at the end of the workshop. And our workshop is really designed to be quite engaging. We'll be using menti.com as an engagement tool, which is accessible by your phone, or you can open a web browser. It's really important that everyone in this call be treated kindly and that we show that love and respect for each other. If anyone is in need of any assistance during this time, you can message myself or Encore Show 08 for any technical difficulties. You're also welcome to visit our event microsite Wellness Center for a list of support resources, and this can be found in a link that we can provide that I think Encore will post in the chat. And then at the end of the workshop, I'll be posing two questions just for feedback. I'm really grateful if you have a moment to answer these questions. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to the rest of the co-hosting team. I'm going to pass it over to Shannon Williams, a colleague and friend from Emergency Management BC. She'll share a bit more about the workshop and then introduce the co-hosts.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hadi, everyone. My name is Shannon Williams. My pronouns are she, her. I am Métis on my mother's side, and I'm Norwegian on my father's side. And today I am here to be with you on the journey that we are taking on today. So the workshop is called It Starts With Me. And what does that mean? So we're really calling in all of those with curiosity, with an open heart and an open mind. And we're inviting in anyone who might feel resistance to the ideas of reconciliation, cultural safety, cultural humility. So we're asking everyone to join us. All humans are welcome here today because really reconciliation starts with you. It starts with me. Ending violence and ending violence in our culture requires each of us to shift our attitude, our language, our skills, and our behaviors but we need to do this without blame or shame. So here today, we are trying to create a safe space for you to begin the journey of recognizing your blind spots, thinking about the steps that you have taken or want to take on this journey of cultural safety. It is really a journey of continuous learning, self-reflection, and shifting of your practices, your processes, and the way we communicate with each other. And really understanding how will the new information that you receive inform your approach going forward. So this workshop is a story harvest workshop. We will have a storyteller tell us a story, and we will provide lenses to listen to the story with, so that we can practice discovery, self-discovery, and being more aware of the things that we hear and see and feel around us. This storytelling will help you reflect on, with humility, the things that you hear, and it might help you inform your practice and approach moving forward. So welcome. We are really excited to have you here today. So I want to introduce the rest of our co-hosting team. So I'm going to pass it off first to John Kervel.
I'm Heathlook. Good morning. Slidach wam alugigadi. Wilps getan wil die sitnitsquit noi yuch die nit loy. Gitlacdamics will witwitki. Slidach is my name. I am a hereditary subchief of Wilps getan. My mother also comes from Wilps getan, as we Niska are from a lineal cultural nation. I originally come from Gitlacdamics, BC, formerly known as New Hatch. My English name is John Kervel. I have the privilege and honor to be calling in from Snuneymuxw territory as a Nisga'a settler. My base position within the BC Public Service, I'm an environmental emergency response officer. I am currently working with Emergency Management BC on a temporary assignment with the Strategic Partnership Branch that helps to inform the best practices for including cultural safety and humility. Toiksamnin, thank you. I'd like to pass it off to Nicole Gagnon.
Thanks, John. Tansei, everyone. My name is Nicole Gagnon. I am Métis on my father's side and of British ancestry on my mother's side. My pronouns are she, her. I am calling in today from Lekwungen territory, and I have deep gratitude to both the Songhees and Esquimalt nations for whose land I live and learn on, and for the work they do to keep these beautiful lands the way they are and have been since time memorial. I am working in the BC Public Service in the Ministry of Citizens Services. I'm a senior advisor of Indigenous relations. I work in the connectivity division, and what we do is we work to support bringing connectivity, internet, to all nations in British Columbia. I'm really excited to be here and share space with you. Welcome, everyone. And I will pass it on to Nicole Evanoff to introduce herself.
Tansei. Hello, everyone. Nicole Evanoff. I use the she, her pronouns, and I am Métis and French on my mother's side and English and Bulgarian on my father's side. And I was born and raised on Lekwungen territory, but now I too reside on the Lekwungen territories. And here at the BC Public Service, I am a cultural safety manager with the Ministry of Poverty Reduction and Social Development. Or I think I got that backwards. I just started my job, but I'm very grateful to be here and just would love to welcome everyone into the space here. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Nicole and John. We've lost our shared screen, so I'm just going to put that out to our tech person. Thank you so much for your support. So I also forgot to acknowledge the territory that I'm on. I'm calling in today from Clay Lake Tenay territory, where I'm so grateful to live, work, and roller skate. So I'm so glad to be with you guys here from that territory. So we're going to move into welcome and acknowledgements, and I'll just give a moment for us to get our slide up. But we wanted to talk briefly about the medicine wheel, which you'll see on the slide that we have for welcome and acknowledgements. So why do we have this image, and why does it matter so much in our culture? You know, what medicine wheel is a circle, which represents that circle of life. There are 4 colors. Those represent different things for different people, different aspects of wellness. And all Indigenous worldviews really include that inclusive space in place for all of us to express who we are and to have holistic wellness. So today we're going to be using circle practice, and we find circle practice is really something that has been practiced through time immemorial. It is an ancestral practice. Think Knights of the Round Table. People have been sitting in circles and telling stories for generations. So we really want to invite in today that feeling of storytelling and that social, emotional, experiential learning that we have in circle practice. So today we're going to be using Mentimeter to invite everyone to acknowledge their territory and to welcome them in. So if you go to menti.com, which you can see up there on the slide.
And I'm just gonna interject for a moment. I actually forgot to do a Menti slide for this. So perhaps we could just invite folks to acknowledge in their own kind of mind the territories that they're on. And we do, yeah, so my apologies.
Hey, no worries. That's why we have the agreement of patience with technology and moving forward with grace. So thank you so much. And yes, acknowledge the territory that you're on in your own way today. So we want to note that a lot of people ask us when we do this workshop, when does the learning begin? Well, the learning has already begun. It begins with you taking the time to start self-reflecting, to engage with us, and having that feeling of being a part of our space. So really, the learning is about every experience that you have today. And so our intentions today is to co-create that safe space for you to step into. So create a circle of safety for everyone. We really want to build on your existing skills, build on who you are as a person, and to bring in your knowledge and your abilities and allow you to engage and reflect and share with others. So we're going to have Menti slides where you can be a part of that by, telling us a bit about who you are and what your feelings are and what your reflections are on the things we're going to share with you today. And really, this self-reflection is all about taking steps towards ending violence against women, ending violence against anyone in our society, especially women and children and people of gender diverse identities. So we want to help people self-reflect, because when you can identify with yourself, you can identify with others. So this workshop was developed within EMBC with an idea to create a more compassionate emergency management response. And the workshop was built off of principles that were developed in the Indigenous Youth Internship Program within the BC Public Service. So we always want to honor our fabulous youth interns and all of the work that they've done. So thank you guys, and I will pass off to Nicole and we will start doing our agreements.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. So yeah, we're going to talk about agreements for our time together, and then after that, we'll do a check-in as a group. This is my favorite way to bring together people in a respectful dialogue. If we know that we're going to have differing of opinions, that we might have challenging conversations, talking about challenging topics, agreements really sets the tone for what kind of space we want to share in that conversation. And we really consider the way that we work with one another. So we're working to call each other in instead of calling each other out. We find that really well-intentioned folks on their learning journey of reconciliation might tend to call people out. And what that means is maybe going, oh, Nicole, you are being racist. I want you to acknowledge that. And that's really a calling out rather than a calling in. And the neuroscience shows that when we give feedback in a way that is negative or threatening in that calling out scenario, it activates the neurons in our amygdala, and the behavior response we get is freeze, flight, fight, or fawn. However, when we give feedback in a more positive way, it activates the neurons in the prefrontal cortex, and that activates our planning, thinking, and our compassionate parts of our brain. And that's when we're more likely to see a positive behavioral change. And when we offer those opportunities for repetition, we also can create new neural pathways and new habits and tendencies. So without further ado, we're going to do our first Menti. So if you want to get your phone or your use your computer, you're going to go onto the internet and you're going to go to www.menti.com. And there's a code at the top as well. And if you put that code in where it asks for it, you should be able to see the same slide that you're seeing here on the screen. And we just invite everyone to offer an agreement or intention for our time together. There's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever you need in this space today. This is also a very anonymous tool, so you won't, no one will know what you wrote. And what's going to happen, as you can see, is as the words come together, we're going to create a really beautiful word cloud. And if you're not sure what to put, maybe there's a word on the screen that's calling out to you, and you can put in that same word as well. And whatever word is most repeated in this exercise is going to be the one that's in the center, or the bigger of the other words. And so while we have everyone offering some agreements for our time together, I'll also offer some of the ones that we've shared already, such as patience with technology, and just removing those the frustrations that we can feel sometimes when we're on an online platform and the technology may or may not be working the way that we'd like it to. Another one I'd like to offer is agree to disagree. So how can we hold opposing views and still be respectful with one another? And so I'm seeing here in the center, learning, respect, understanding. And then there's so many wonderful answers that this is probably the biggest word cloud I've ever seen. So I really want to acknowledge and sit here and share my gratitude for all of you for being so willing to participate in this exercise. And if we can all just take a moment to read the different words on the screen and sit with the kind of space that we've all decided to create together. And I think what's really a really nice way in moving forward is if we could just ground ourselves in this space that we want to be in. And because we've got a lot planned for our short time together, we won't do a long grounding exercise, but I do invite you to sit here and take some intentional deep breaths and really just sit in the space of what we're holding with one another. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll move to the next slide and we're going to do a check-in. This is the next part of working together and sitting together in a circle and in our shared space. Shannon mentioned the Indigenous Youth Internship Program, and I think it's important to acknowledge that in years 9, 10, and 11, they had 100% retention of all 25 youth, and it's really less about the number, but more important of how and why they had the retention of all 25 youth. And that was because they had the tools and the language to show up and to ask for what they needed to feel empowered in the space, a new space that they've never been in before. And things like agreements and check-ins are part of those tools that the youth were given. So we're going to move into that check-in next. Your Menti screen, either on your phone or your computer, should be moving along with you as we do this. So really just inviting you to share your ancestry, maybe a word or two for how you're feeling today, or maybe how you want to share the space and intention. With such a large group, we couldn't possibly unmute ourselves and go around in circle and hear everyone's beautiful voices. So today we're using Menti as an opportunity to check in and share a little bit about ourselves with each other. And while we see some responses populate, I'll just share that you've already gotten to know me a little bit in my introduction, but I am sharing that I'm showing up today really grateful for the opportunity today. Thank you to Moose Hide Campaign for allowing us to come and share space and to share some learnings with everyone today. I think grateful would be my word, but I'm also quite excited and just really joyful here. But I also am being reflective of why we're all gathering here today and the intent of the conversations and the topic of why we're here today. So I'm seeing a lot of different ancestries here on the screen, seeing where everyone is from. There might be a bit of lag on my end, so apologies, but yeah, I just thank you everyone for checking in, sharing your ancestry and how you're showing up today. This is really cool. And without too much more time, looks like we had 160 respondents, so that's really awesome. Thanks everyone, and we can move on in our slides. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Nicole. So as we begin, I like to always ground in that big picture, you know, why bother, just recognizing, you know, so many of us, you know, being over 2 years into the pandemic, it's tired, it's easy to be overwhelmed as well by the task of decolonizing our minds and our workplaces. You know, recognizing colonization isn't just something that's impacted Indigenous people, it's impacted all of us globally. Colonization, industrialization have led to climate change, which disproportionately impact Indigenous communities here in Canada due to the Indian reserve system. Globalization has been driven by colonialism, and with it, the globalization of poverty and addiction as capitalism forces many people into difficult circumstances. Doing this work to decolonize, stepping into this space in this way is a quadruple word score I've found in terms of the positive impacts to social, emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being. And it brings to mind the story of the hummingbird, which we can pop the little YouTube link in the chat. The hummingbird is a story about a hummingbird in this huge forest being consumed by a fire, and it says, and they're like, I'm gonna do something about this fire. And so it flies to the nearest stream and takes a drop of water, puts it on the fire, and goes up and down as fast as it can. And in the meantime, all the other animals, much bigger animals like elephant with a big trunk that could do much more than what could do, bring in much more water, they're standing there and they're saying to the hummingbird, what do you think you can do? You're too little. The fire is too big. Your wings are too little and your beak is so small that you can only bring a cup of water at a time. And as they continue to discourage the hummingbird, it turns to them and without wasting any time tells them, I'm doing the best I can. And as they continue, and to me, that is really about what each of us could do, to be that hummingbird our actions might seem really small against a system so large. Yet what we can all say is, that I can be a hummingbird and I can do the best I can, and honoring of the spirit and recognizing humanity and compassion in ourselves and cultivating that space of understanding for others. So, when we look to, there's so many pieces that there's solutions here that are given by nations and honoring the agency of nations. So really trying to center that today, and who are all in the room and who we're going to be hearing from. So I'm going to move to our next slide. Before we do that, we want to start, and I was so grateful to hear some of the opening comments this morning from Honorable Justice Marie Sinclair and our Governor General, Mary Simon. In particular, that starts from within, the what can I do piece. And so this is a piece that really resonates with me, recognizing, we can have really good intentions. And unless we've been doing that kind of learning about ourselves, that self-awareness and self-discovery, learning about our blind spots, we've all got physical blind spots. When we're driving, we have tools to help us with our blind spots. And again, as Shannon mentioned earlier, approaching without blame or shame, approaching ourselves with curiosity, with some humility and humor. I know sometimes folks often are kind of looking for, they want to like a little checklist, things to do or not do. So there's some of the demonstrating behaviors of self-discovery and awareness through the BC Provincial Indigenous Relations Behavioral Competencies. And I think someone might be able to pop that in the chat. It's a really great list of do's and don'ts if you're looking for that. Another really great one on the competencies is building trust-based relationships. So that's a really great one to look at. And I'm really grateful for the BC Public Service and the engagement they've done over the years with both Indigenous public servants, community members, and elders. Just want to acknowledge Elder Mace, who's married into the Sartlip Nation, and who's been a mentor and a contributor. And also want to acknowledge Peg Christian, who's the Indigenous penholder for the Indigenous Relations Behavioral Competencies. They've been such a powerful tool for helping to make space for Indigenous people knowledge and practice. And I just want to acknowledge that there are many small pockets of this good work being done in government, and also recognize that we have much further to go. And acknowledge that sometimes this journey can feel uncertain at times, and what better way to be guided through that time of uncertainty than through storytelling, which activates many parts of our brain and helps us to gain insight from those answers coming from within, are so much more powerful than being told the answers. So if you've ever asked an elder for advice, you'll know that you don't ever get a straight answer. You might get a little bit of story. So we're going to move into some storytelling to support that. So the collective story harvest is something that I'm going to pass to my colleague Nicole Evanoff to share.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, I really enjoyed this tool, the Story Harvest tool, to help really build capacity for listening, helps with reflection, and I personally have found it's really helped me aid on my own journey of self-discovery. And through using it here at work, it turns out it's a great tool that we can use for engagement, like here we are today, maybe some project creation and development. And so what I really like about the collective story harvest, is that it enables us to deeply connect with and learn from the experience in our community, our team, or organization. And it builds our capacity for that kind of targeted listening and really group learning. And it also creates a space to surface insights, innovations, and have like these aha moments that exist beneath the surface of our stories, and really can take us to learning at a deeper level. And I've actually personally experienced this. I got to be a storyteller, and I just really enjoyed it. And so I firmly believe in its strengths to help dealing with complex realities and bring simplicity as well, like understanding and learning from that complexity. It creates this very rich learning environment. Storytelling I just find to be so much fun and just an interesting way to just view things in a different way. So it's a simple but powerful tool that can be used regularly to take stock, capture learning, and refocus the field. So how does the story harvest work? If you want to switch the slide. So today we're going to spend the next little bit of our time together here. We'll begin with reviewing theme catchers. So these are lenses or themes that you want to use to listen to the story. There will be 5 of them. You can pick any of them. You can listen with any of those lenses or with your own particular lens. And so we'll review those themes, and then we're going to listen to a story. And then we'll spend some time, processing, we'll reflect, and we'll use those theme catchers to harvest any of those insights, aha moments, or even reflect on how it relates to our own stories and experiences. And then we're going to come together again and use Mentimeter to share our reflections. Thanks, Steph. So our first theme that I would love to introduce to everyone, theme number 1 is listening for narratives within the story. And how do they influence attitudes, behaviors, and actions? And just some little prompts that I like are, what do you notice? What do you see, feel, or hear?
So our second theme catcher is listening for moments of observing one's own behavior and actions. So what shifts did you notice that person observed in their own behavior and actions? And some things to look for is speaking honestly about one's own biases and assumptions, and having awareness of personal biases when either writing or doing actions or interpreting somebody else's experiences as well. And our next theme catcher is listening for moments of being open to new perspectives and different ways of thinking. So what did you see, feel, and hear? And things to look for are acknowledging the thinking, emotions, and behaviors of others and the things in the world around us. New perspectives might be thinking about somebody else's perspective, or even the Earth's perspective and animals' perspective. And moments of suspending judgment and suspending decision-making until fully understanding the situation and the perspectives of those around you.
Okay, and theme catcher number 4. Listening for opportunities to develop self-awareness personally and in others. What ripple effects were there? What did you see? What did you feel? What did you hear? So when you're listening to the story, does the storyteller have any aha moments of their own? Or was there any ripple effect in did someone else or anyone else in the story also have their own awareness of something as in turn from the storyteller? And the last theme catcher, number 5, open listening or just any further observations or things that you want to share. So Is there anything else that maybe the other theme catchers didn't quite offer for you to listen for? Is there anything else that you might have noticed in the story that really caught you in the moment and you want to share?
All right, so now that we've reviewed the themes, we will leave them up, or perhaps you'd like to jot down the themes. You're welcome to jot down any notes or even practice your oral history skills. And so today's storyteller is Stelk, my friend John, and feel free to tease me and help teach me to pronounce your name better, John. And he will be sharing a story about effective nonverbal communication through his own journey of self-discovery and really learning what that means and looks like to him. So I'd like to introduce John. Thank you.
Thank you. A small piece of my lived experience, a small but impactful process for me to understand what my healing journey is and could be. One of my current personal goals in my life is to ensure that I'm able to overcome the traumatic experience of growing up in poverty. As an Indigenous child that has witnessed and survived violence, to be here with you today. The inherent privilege that I hold in any place where I'm present as a self-identifying straight Indigenous male, acknowledging that I hold space, that if I'm not careful, mindful, and present can create situations where my internal toxic masculinity can take over within those spaces. I had reservations about participating today, as I understood I am taking space. However, the amazing, strong Indigenous women that are here with me today invited me to be here, that they have also guided me to understand that I, as a man, have a large responsibility to confront and accept the work to create safe spaces, so that I can honor the sacred space of being invited to participate with you today. On my personal journey of self-discovery, I have to acknowledge I am still on it. I have not completed it. On the sacred walk amongst the physical world, I've experienced violence firsthand as a child. I've witnessed violence as a child towards other children, women, and gender diverse plus people. What I've learned over the course of my personal healing journey is that if there's anything good that comes out of witnessing or experiencing violence, is that us survivors have the power to recognize it and to hopefully assist with stopping it from happening to others. I know that I can create safe spaces, that I can ensure that I am known to be safe, that I can be seen to be approachable to those who are experiencing a moment of vulnerability. What I'd like to share today is my experience, realization, an understanding of my nonverbal communication impacts. Nonverbal communication refers to the way in which we convey information about emotions, needs, intentions, attitudes, and thoughts without the use of the spoken word, or how it enhances our verbal communication in a positive or negative way. It's inherently important that we understand the energies we receive and the energies that we give, that it must be done in a way of understanding what our true intentions are. My mother would describe me as a very animated communicator, big wide eyes, big smile, big laugh, with lots of movement with my arms and body. This is also evident when I am frustrated, angry, and or even hungry. Over the course of my career, I've received significant media training. They identified I wouldn't be good for interviews due to the fact that I vibrate with physical communication that accompanies my spoken word. Plenty of interviews have occurred since those training opportunities. And I must say at times, I do feel like Ricky Bobby, and I still don't know what to do with my hands while I'm speaking. I've always known and accepted myself with the ebb and flow of having very animated communication profile that is accompanied with very vocal eyes. What I had not known about is the potential negative impact that my nonverbal communication was having on those around me when I was not at my best. We're all human. We have days, weeks, months, I'm still working on the development of my understanding of the current limits of my emotional intelligence so that I can continue to push those boundaries. I fully acknowledge that I have to continue to ensure I understand my intention for effective, safe communication in order to cultivate inclusive spaces so that I can hold and maintain inclusive environments for all to participate. Of all the beings that I've interacted with over the course of my journey, it was a puppy, my puppy, a puppy named Cash that made me realize I have heaps of work to do with my communication profile. My golden retriever, who's 10 years old now, taught me about the positive effects of practicing mindfulness of my surroundings, mindfulness of the impacts of my nonverbal communication, creating internal understanding that there are many forms of effective communication, that the diversity in understanding messages sometimes goes beyond the words we speak. As I found out during multiple opportunities to watch sporting events, that the way I was reacting to the poor play and performances by the teams I enjoy supporting, and if you're a Canucks fan, you know what I'm talking about, it was having a negative impact on my puppy. He'd run and hide from me while I was being animated and frustrated. The angry sighs, the grunting, the frustration of throwing my arms accompanied with those angry sighs. I was negatively impacting him to the point he didn't feel safe being near me due to my poor control of the energies that I was emitting. He'd run to my bedroom and he'd hide underneath my bed. That realization that I was impacting Cash so negatively as a puppy weighed heavily on my soul. I approached one of my cultural teachers, one of my elders, for guidance. When I described this to him, he advised me, our furry four-legged family members come into our lives to also show us our blind spots. I've been taught as a Niska to honor all beings, human or other, that by recognizing this blind spot, I had work to do. So I started that journey of self-discovery. Even before that's what I knew I was on. I started the journey and stumbled into the unknown. It was not an easy journey confronting my internalized viewpoint of what a strong male was supposed to be. My background, I'm a military veteran. I first joined the military at the age of 16. After the military, I stumbled and found myself into being a hazmat response officer. I'm currently still an emergency response practitioner. Those tend to lead towards cultivating a battle-hardened mindset that was looked at as a badge of honor, something to be proud of. Losing sight of the intrinsic values that my Niska nation, my Niska community had taught me, that I had to confront what I now know as compassion fatigue. That is stronger to be vulnerable, to seek out new pathways of being when under stress or having a moment of weakness. This journey that my dog Cash set me upon was a journey of recognition of the healing that I needed to do to face some significant hard truths about who I was, who I am, and who I wanted to be. Not only was I impacting my puppy, I was also impacting those who were and are around me. In a unique way, a puppy who has plopped onto my lap started my journey of self-discovery, my journey of understanding how to effectively communicate. He has helped to inform my foundation of who I am and how I proceed within the sacred journey within the physical world. He has taught me how to be a better brother, a better son, a better uncle, and a better partner. I acknowledge that we men have a large portion of this work to address our toxic masculinity, to help dismantle the patriarchal processes that have taken root. Understanding and acknowledging I come from a matriarchal society, that women, children, and gender diverse plus people are sacred. To embark into the journey of self-discovery, to seek opportunities to see what a spark is for each individual can be, that sometimes the spark of change can present itself in ways we would not anticipate, so that we can understand our emotional intelligence and push those boundaries, to understand the space I hold, to ensure the space I want to maintain is safe for children, safe for women, safe for gender diverse plus people. That acknowledgement that it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice and to be there for those who are potentially experiencing vulnerability. I don't share these experiences from a person who's completed his journey. I share one small experience that sparked one internal process to undertake an opportunity to build internal capacity within one area, safe and effective nonverbal communication. How did I confront it? I learned that I had to confront my compassion fatigue. What did I do? A lot of self-reflective processes, a lot of hard looks in the mirror, looking at myself and trying to figure out what I wanted. I started to volunteer, participated in community events, joined my Niska Nation's cultural dance groups, practicing mindfulness, reading books. My partner and I started a practice of reading books to each other at the end of our nights. It doesn't happen every night. It happens when we read something we feel is so profound, we want to share with each other. A form of verbal moments of awe, a form of practicing mindfulness. During one of the evenings of sharing teachings from books with my partner, we came upon Richard Wagamise's Embers, one of Ojibwe's meditations. Teachings come from everywhere when you open yourself to them. That's the trick of it, really. Open yourself to everything, and everything opens itself to you. One area that I've been enjoying of late, as well, is practicing daily moments of awe, an exercise that I use to enhance my mindfulness throughout the chaos of this world, a moment to ensure that I'm being open. Awe is the experience we have when we encounter things that are vast and large and that transcend our current understanding of the world, a form of practicing a moment of mindfulness. Recently, as I was walking to work, I was listening to a podcast discussion about approaching a colleague where there's disagreement. I was fully immersed within that dialogue, so much so my demeanor was starting to change. My cadence picked up. I was frowning. I was imagining the confrontation and how the likely outcome would be. As I was going through these emotions, through the lived experience with this colleague, I recognized the physical change and emotional change within me. I recognized my nonverbal communication. It was trending towards an area that I've been working so hard to move away from. As I tapped back into the reality in front of me, I finally realized that a hummingbird was flying 3 feet in front of my face and had been doing so for nearly an entire block. I realized I wasn't open. I wasn't paying attention. This was that day's moment of awe. A gentle reminder of the journey I've been on in addressing my nonverbal communication. It was an opportunity to unplug from the podcasts and the stresses of the world and be in awe of this beautiful little bird and thank it for the reminder. As I verbally thanked it, it chirped its reply and flew to a beautiful pink flowering cherry blossom tree. The journey of self-discovery can occur at any moment of our lives if we're open to receive it. My journey of healing did not occur until I was 29. As I recognized I needed to make changes, that I wanted to ensure I was part of the change to break a cycle, that it's not too late to start. I'm filled with gratitude to my dog Cash and to those who are near and dear to my heart.
Good morning, Olivia speaking.
To my soul.
Hi, good, thank you.
Sorry about that. I'm filled with gratitude.
Oh, we will. Hey, geez, I wondered about that.
Practicing a moment of my intentions of being open and mindful with the stresses that sometimes technology brings. I'm filled with gratitude to my dog Cash and to those who are near and dear to my heart, to my soul, to those I have met over the course of my life, to those I have yet to meet, for giving me your patience and guidance to be here with you today. Toiksamni, thank you for inviting me into the space to share one small portion of my journey within the sacred walk within this physical world. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I just really want to acknowledge your vulnerability and humility to really share those learnings and your truths with us today. I just want to raise my hands and thank you so much, John.
Thank you, John. Really grateful for your sharing and took so much away from what you shared. It's really grateful. I'm curious about how this landed for folks as well. As an opportunity, we're going to use the Mentimeter as another way to engage. So if you were listening with one of those lenses or open listening lens, as we heard from John, that importance of just having that openness. So let's invite folks, if you'd like to share in the Menti, you're welcome to. Definitely, and John, getting some comments from people saying beautifully spoken and so thankful. So I think your words resonated with a lot of people. So we're just going to give some space here. You can see folks are already sharing back, and yeah, I was just curious for that kind of digging a little deep. What did you notice? What did you hear? What did you see? What did you feel? So important to acknowledge all of these aspects and bringing our whole selves. We've got some feedback. Every moment is the opportunity to be an impactful learning moment. Beautiful. And the way we communicate can impact how our views and opinions are received. Moments of awe really resonated with me. The idea that there are so many teachings around us if we're open to them. And that's so true. And something over the years, you know, as elders pass and feeling that sadness and kind of like, and also kind of despair of like, oh my gosh, as we lose all of our elders, all that knowledge will be gone. And something I've learned through doing the practice of being out on the land and doing land-based healing and opening myself up to the plant elements and all the elements is that the answers are there, and it's just when we take that time to open our hearts and minds that we'll find it again, and that was really helpful. Got a it's definitely something I learned from Grantee Sturfield in sharing. It's often like a good way to start. Give that space. The way we communicate can impact how our views and opinions are received. So true. I know my younger self, like I didn't learn how to communicate in a way to ask for what I needed in a way that felt safe for myself or others, and would just be quiet until I burst. And then people would be like, oh my gosh, Stephanie, you're scary. I'm like, what? I'm terrified. So learning about our wake, lots of sharing. Oh my goodness, not too late to start learning. It's true, right? I definitely loved how, because so many of us have pets, and what a wonderful thing that there can be that reciprocity and growth and learning by the relationships that we have to our pets. Considering all live beings as teachers and an opportunity for aha moments. Yes. Power that exists with moments to pause and observe the natural elements around you. Beautiful. I love the participation in here. It's so wonderful to see all of the comments. Compassion fatigue. Yeah, it's, you know, how to generate that endless well of compassion. And I also love the hearing, the reading books aloud, parts that just really speak and resonate, to share, creating those as mindful moments. And that's something I took away, was just how mindfulness can look in so many different ways. You've inspired someone to take a step back and understand how they influence and impact the lives around me. I remember learning about the concept about emotional wake, and I was like, what is that? So for a month, I kind of held that, and then I noticed that times when maybe I'm feeling grumpy, that I might leave that wake of grumpiness behind me, and those people being impacted. So it really helped just to bring some more awareness for myself. Take that time, pause and check in and see where is that feeling coming from? What do I need? And how can I ask for it in a way that feels safe for myself and others? Vulnerability is so hard and so important. Yes. It's that shift in a culture from vulnerability being something as weak to something that can be very powerful. Can help to make those connections with each other. The importance of nonverbal communication and the impact of others around me. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Listening with your heart. Wonderful. I'm so glad other people are learning about their blind spots. That's so wonderful. It's so helpful. Oh, I'm glad someone's got here. Self-reflection is a great tool, because in a moment, we're going to, a few more moments, we might move into some moments of self-reflection. As a man, it's a strength to recognize the power of women. Beautiful. Thank you. Nihawen for sharing opportunities to acknowledge our journey and witness the beautiful ways we are guided. John, you're not alone in that, being moments where you're unaware of the beauty of things and then noticing. Yeah, great quote. I wrote that down too. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. Wonderful. So much sharing back from everybody. It's wonderful to see how this resonated for folks. Yeah, even though there's over 200 people on the call, John, I felt like you were speaking directly to them. I was having a little peek, and people could see people with their cameras on, just sitting back and really listening. I think that's so powerful. We can take those moments just to listen. I know I hear some elders share, got 2 ears, 1 mouth. So. I'm the opposite. No animation when I talk. I thought it was a problem for me. Thank you for sharing a different perspective and opening my mind to other experiences. Many ways to be in the world. Beautiful. I love that. Strengths can be in moments of vulnerability and humility. Oh, a little question. What's quilting masculinity? Might be a little clarification. We all want our best version of ourselves and want to be positively influenced by others. Hence, we need to be aware of our energy impacts on others. Energy is fueled by what we focus on. Gratefulness fuels energy of humility. I aspire to this. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing those. Reminded to notice how I listen, not just how I communicate, to maintain openness and compassion, and to step back and give others the benefit of a doubt, to always assume good intention. Yes, that's an agreement I learned from Indigenous youth. Believe in good intentions, belief in the basic goodness of people, and it's really transformed my practice in life. Some people would try to help me. Sometimes I might get a little grumpy and think like, do they think I can't do it, or some inner critic of my own. And now with that belief in good intentions, now I'll take a breath. Oh, are you trying to be helpful right now? And invariably they're like, yeah, I'm like, okay, let's have a little chat about what that looks like. I'm really grateful. It's transformed my life. Oops, I did a backwards thing. So much sharing here. It's wonderful. I'm really grateful for each of you who have been contributing, and as well for those of you who have been more witnessing. It's an important role too, as we saw this morning with the protocol with Yahweh-Litan and honoring the protocols of the nations whose land we are here on. So it's beautiful, however, each one of us share up. So much dialogue. What would my cats think about my emotional reactions and demeanor? Do I give myself the chance to notice and be aware of the moments of all that around me? Powerful questions. So much power in asking questions. Our bird relatives sending messages for a time to pause. Be mindful of the space you are given or you take. You've generated a lot of learning and thoughts and insights, John. Really grateful for your sharing. I'm curious if you might be just how this experience was for you being a storyteller, if there's any kind of further reflections that you would like to share.
Yeah, Toix, I mean, thank you for all those kind words. Still trying to process, taking a moment to reground myself and to center myself of embarking into extreme vulnerability, putting myself out there, but knowing full well that I have the support of those who invited me into this sacred space. And doing my best to control my emotions right now. Trying to keep my animated face very stoic or calm, I guess, and just filled with gratitude of those nice words. So Toix, I mean, thank you.
Thank you. So many wonderful insights and reflections. Really grateful for each of you. We're going to move into a little bit more time for reflecting. And before we do that, I just wanted to kind of make that linkage of the principles of It Starts With Me and that journey of self-discovery and awareness. And as I mentioned earlier, that reflecting on the intersocietal and intergenerational impacts that colonization has had on all of us. So we have that opportunity to be cycle breakers. That kind of initial step, of learning the truth about our shared history, and then reflecting on our own personal journey and how it's reflected in our day-to-day practices. What better way than having someone like Cash to help you with those? If not that, a partner, and without any blame or shame, starting to learn and unpack some of our own behaviors that can sustain ongoing oppression. For me, it's been asking for help from my partner, some of my blind spots around empathy, being a second-generation residential school survivor. That's a blind spot for me, those closest to me, and having my partner in those moments with when my kids, I'm not being empathetic, just to give me a little nudge. I take a breath. Come from a place of love and compassion and empathy. It's been transformative in terms of being a parent, as well learning about some of those, that social conditioning that we've received through the media. And there's some really great documentaries, Real Engine, Misrepresentation, there I should have 2 S's there. Really great documentaries that unpacked the impacts for women through media as well. Real Engine, the role of Hollywood and how that generates those that kind of blind spot around fear of Indigenous people or thinking of us as less than. Another piece in that journey, unpacking some of the benefits that we gain. I'm a visitor to these territories, and I have many benefits and privileges from being here, and that I continue to gain and experience through colonization. And so bringing awareness to that through practice of social location. Myself, I didn't I'm Inuk on my dad's side and Irish ancestry with a bit of Spanish on my mom. I've been a visitor to Lekwungen territory for most of my life. For most of my life, I've identified as cisgendered. In more recent years, identify as two-spirit, visibly Indigenous, and also come with a lot of privileges for my non-Indigenous side, and just try to really bring awareness to that, so that and acknowledge, so that that power of acknowledgement, because then it can help prevent less harm. And so, thinking about on this journey, like what is some of the learning we can do and some of the unlearning that could be done and reflected in our daily practice. And I love that John shared some of those, your own daily practices, like moments of awe, as I find that can be so helpful for me. I have a morning practice when I get up and doing some physical movements, mindfulness, and body movement. It kind of helps me to ground myself for the day. And then looking at, what are ways that we could reflect and strengthen our muscles of self-management and self-regulation practices. I often hear, I've heard one of my Inuit elders, Shilawak Klute, in The Right to Be Cold, sharing, what we've lost by not being able to participate in a hunting culture due to climate change in the north. And you can imagine if you're seal hunting and you've got the hole there and you've got your staff and you're ready. It doesn't matter if your nose is itchy or you're bored or something, you've got family at home. And so, these situations that cultivate self-determination, self-management, self-regulation. So what are some of those that we could do now that help, some of those practices that could help develop that? And then lastly, with those spheres of influence, how can within our own circles of impact, how can I encourage, facilitate, and make space for the inclusion of Indigenous people, knowledge, and practice within my circles of influence? So with that, we're going to move to a little bit of reflection.
All right. The one really great tool for mindfulness and reflection is free flow writing. This practice allows you to write or type your thoughts in a consecutive motion. So do your best to continue for the 3 minutes total. This is an invitation for us all now to bring pen to paper or fingers to keys. Perhaps you have some paper nearby, or you can bring up a window to type into, whatever you prefer. But we're going to find a way for us to practice 3 minutes of free flow writing. It's an opportunity for us to maybe further reflect on John's story, or perhaps you want to begin reflecting on your own story. But we do have a writing prompt here for you to consider. So based on the truth of our shared history of how we all came to be here, what are some active steps I could take within my circles of influence to inspire and empower? And Stephanie's put the prompt into the chat in case you need it there as well. After we do 3 minutes of the writing, we'll do a debrief on Menti afterwards, and we'll talk about it. So we're going to give you some silence to reflect and write, and I'll let you know when the 3 minutes is up. And you may begin now, and I'll check in with you in 3 minutes. Okay, if you want to finish your thought, we're welcoming you back into the space. And I believe Stephanie will bring up another Menti for us to share Any reflections about what you wrote, what you noticed or felt? Maybe you had some surprises or aha moments during your 3-minute reflection. Maybe it was your first time doing an activity like this before. Free flow writing is a really wonderful way to sometimes just get it all out, whatever's going on in our head.
Nicole, I'm wondering if you would mind if I shared some of what I wrote, because it was pretty impactful.
I would love that, Shannon, please.
I'm feeling emotional about this, but that's important. It is uncomfortable to be honest about myself. It makes me feel exposed and raw, but I always feel the blanket of human experience wash back over me. No one is perfect. No one walks through life without harming something, but it's all a balance. Without darkness, there can be no light. And sometimes the dark is where we go to heal.
Thank you, Shannon. I want to take this time to really honor what you shared and your words. They're very powerful. And your feelings and your emotions. Yeah. I know you're not alone in that either. I'm feeling it today as well. I'm seeing in the comments that folks are also feeling emotional. They're surprised by it. They weren't expecting it. I think John's story really touched us all, made us really think about our place in this world. Thank you, Shannon. And thank you everyone who's sharing in the Menti. Healing is a journey and not a destination. Absolutely. It takes a lifetime of it. There's some thanks for you in here too, Shannon. It's important to be human, live, laugh, love, mixed with helping pave the way for the vulnerable future, past and present. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. I know I'll never be perfect, but my effort to be better should never end. Yes, very powerful words. Being perfect is something I think we all strive for and struggle with, that concept in itself. I think it's a very beautiful thing that we're all very not perfect and we're all very unique in all of our own ways. Sometimes my violence against others begins with violence towards myself. Learning to have love and compassion for myself, even when I'm not at my best, and allow my true self to shine forth. Allowing my true self to shine forth can also free others to do the same. Yes, that vulnerability of being our true selves and loving our true selves and showing up authentically every day. I really admire those that can be themselves and feel power and strength in who they are. It's guiding light for the rest of us who are working on that. This was a powerful opportunity to reflect and to envision, imagining the path ahead with compassion, forgiveness, and courage. I really appreciate everyone taking a moment to share their reflections. These are all really powerful words. They're all your own truths. You can see that you're not alone in the way that you feel and that we're all on our own journey. And that's really important for us to take a moment and sit in that. And maybe some of us can pull this practice into other days of our lives and not just today. Maybe some of us will consider free flow writing as more of a practice in our daily lives. And if writing's not for you, maybe it's just a couple minutes, 3 minutes to sit in quiet. And like this one says, take time for ourselves. I'm seeing a lot of repetition around violence towards others starts with violence towards ourselves. And I really just want to acknowledge that and hold that and hope that folks feel that they have places they can go to get the help that they may need, whether it's in community and friends and family supports. I know it was mentioned earlier in our session that there will be some supports that are shared, some resources. We'll also be offering some too. Small acts of everyday bravery, whether they are external or internal, are powerful and difficult. To challenge the status quo in everyday language used at work and among friends. Yes, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that. How can we make that small change in our lives and the lives of others? Great. I really would love to sit and read every single one of these, but we don't have the time. But thank you everyone for reflecting and sharing. This is really important and really special. And I believe we're passing it on to Nicole Evanoff.
You're not muted, Nicole, but maybe your headphones have died. Patience with technology, right? No, we got nothing.
I can step in, and then if the next slide it's worked out, Nicole can join us. So this slide is just that reminder about that there's there's deep connections between our social, emotional, cultural, and environmental learning, and some of the recommendations for how we're bringing this change into our lives, both personally and professionally, include continuing to explore self-reflection. There's lots of, if you Google like free flow writing prompts, you can find little prompts to give yourself and set a timer, learning about some of the biases we have. There's the Harvard implicit bias test that we can do, reading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action. There's 94 of them, and they connect to all aspects of society, practicing and participating in meaningful land acknowledgements, nation acknowledgements, and recognizing how that feels and our own connections to the land and the nations, including Indigenous people, knowledge and practice into our work, and doing that inclusion and collaboration from the beginning, and continuing to learn about Indigenous histories and the impacts today. There's a really great resource by the First Nations Health Authority called Cultural Safety and Humility, Key Drivers and Ideas for Change. And one of my colleagues will pop that in the chat. And then, yeah, that practice of self-reflection. So I'm gonna go to our next slide and just check in and see.
Can you hear me, Stephanie? Oh, yes. Oh, leaning into the patience of technology. I'm a little flustered, so thank you, everyone. And thank you to my fellow co-hosts to the shared leadership there. Yeah, so this slide's about gathering our tools. Nicole Gagnon mentioned a lot of how we're going to reflect and take a lot of self-care. We also want to offer some tools and remind folks that, you know, there's we're in this virtual age, there's lots of online courses and resources that are available that can support you in your learning journey. And we just wanted to share a couple topics or areas that you may want to explore further on that learning journey. And I have to admit, I'm personally a very audible and visual learner, and I have found some great YouTube and TikTok videos that have helped me explore many topics and even learn in little bite-sized pieces. So I really encourage folks to get out there and just explore, and just remember to be very gentle with yourself on your learning journey. So you may be learning, you may need a break, and it's a journey. So just want to really acknowledge that and encourage everyone.
Thanks, Nicole. So speaking of self-care, I think it would be maybe good for us to kind of change our physical state and just kind of shake everything off. So I'm going to invite everyone to stand if you want. This is a practice I like to do. It just really changes any emotional state that you're in. So just put your feet hip distance apart and just start bouncing on your knees and let your arms go and let your body go and just shake. It really just helps kind of like get you out of whatever state you're in. So I was crying and now I'm feeling a little different, a little better. All right, and we'll just find stillness. And this is a practice that we were gifted at one of our partnership tables by an elder named Thomas George Sr. It's called a brushing off. So we're going to start with one of our hands. It could be over your heart. And we're just kind of gathering the energy, gathering all the feelings and the reflections that we've had. And then we're going to just take our arm out and we're going to shoot that energy off into space. And then we're going to do that on the other side as well with our other hand. And just gather up all those feelings and energy and put out your arm and just shoot it out into space. And just invite in, maybe give yourself a hug, invite in those good feelings, those feelings of gratitude and self-awareness, and just whatever you need in this moment. I just invite you to, take any breaths you need, or, have a moment to just give yourself some space, because what we just talked about was really impactful, and self-care is really just taking care of yourself by reflecting on what you're feeling. So this entire course is about self-reflection, self-awareness, and that is a practice of self-care in itself. And we wanted to remind everyone that self-care is also community care. So, reaching out to your community, asking for support, offering support to others. If we can show up for ourselves, we can show up for others. So practice self-care as a part of your community care journey. It's really hard to do self-care if you don't have anybody to support you as well. So support everyone else in their self-care journeys. So we're going to move to a checkout on Mentimeter. And the checkout is really just tell us, how are you feeling? Something that you're leaving behind today, and maybe something that you're taking away. So I just want to open it up to my co-facilitators to share anything that they're leaving behind or taking away today. Nicole?
Hey, yeah. Something that I'm going to be taking away with me today is the beautiful words that were shared by John in his story. I raised my hand to John for his vulnerability and the lessons that I've learned from his story, and leaving behind a lot of gratitude for each and every one of you who showed up today. There's a lot of people in this virtual circle in this space, and it takes a lot to show up and to be vulnerable and to participate and to do the work. And each and every one of you did that today. So thank you very much. And also gratitude to my co-facilitators and the beautiful work that you've all done today. So thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. And I saw here on the reflections that someone said, leaving behind fear and taking away courage for change. And I think that's really what we want to inspire, is to create that safe space for you to think about moving forward, and how you're going to change in small ways that can impact yourself and others. I see taking away a sense of fulfillment and community and leaving behind shame. That's exactly what we were hoping for. Emotional, but excited to incorporate changes moving forward. Taking away some of the amazing energy in this presentation. Thank you so much. Leave behind inspirational and positive learnings today. Thank you so much for coming. And being vulnerable as a facilitator is really something that's hard to do, because we're supposed to be this, image of stoicism, but it's important because being vulnerable is what we're trying to help you learn today. Taking away the need to be more self-reflective, leaving behind heavy guilt I've been carrying about past ignorance, taking away courage and intention that can help heal myself and ripple through the community and those around me. Thank you so much for these reflections. Addressing issues in the community, gender-based violence, poverty. These are all such important reflections, leaving behind gratitude and taking away the reminder that my nonverbal communication is also something to be aware of. A reminder on self-care. We're all a community that goes stronger when we're supportive of one another. Leaving behind negative space and intentionally absorbing the courage and bravery. Thinking about how every gender identity plays a role in ending gender-based violence. Absolutely. Our self-journey, it not only impacts us as individuals, but also as others. Sharing patience and understanding goes a long way. Laying down the idea that this process can be done perfectly, and picking up hope that with compassion for ourselves and others, we can come to know that we are one. Thank you all so much. These reflections are amazing. I'm just cognizant that it's 11:29, so I want to make sure that we have time to check out with all our facilitators, but Musi and Snichalia, which means thank you from my heart, and Daketh, which is the nation's, the language of my area.
So grateful for each of you. I'm definitely taking away lots of inspiration. As we wrap up, I'm just going to share a couple of kind of closing closing remarks. As a reminder, we're now going to be gathering. I just first want to gratitude to each of my co-hosts. So grateful to be able to walk alongside of you each in this journey, and grateful for each of you who have joined us today. We're going to begin gathering over at the Walk to End Violence. For those of us in Victoria, it's going to begin at noon at Mungo Martin House on the corner of Belleville Street and Douglas Street. We'll be walking to the lawn of the BC Legislative Assembly, where there will be ceremony and speeches until 1 p.m. And then for those of you not in Victoria, we'll be live streaming this event through our event microsite. And we'll also be, sorry, I need a little drink of water. We'll be live streaming a fast-breaking ceremony during the calling of the witnesses and closing remarks beginning at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'd be honored to have you to join us for this. For those of you in later time zones, there will be a pre-recorded fast-breaking ceremony available on our website so that you can break your fast at sundown in your time zone. So with that, just to raise my hands to each and every one of you with deep gratitude for joining us today, and grateful for the way that you participated, and I want to acknowledge each of you and all the feelings. All of your feelings are real and valid, and are that connection to our shared humanity. So wonderful. Be safe. And I saw a question, this will be recorded. It is being recorded, and it will be available on the Moose Hide YouTube channel in the near future.